Um, it's my great pleasure, really great pleasure here to present Professor Konstantin Korotkov, one of the great person in the community, developer of the whole class of methodologies related to Kirlian effect and series of devices for this measurement. And we hope for a great lecture, Konstantin. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Sergey. And first of all, I want to thank Sergey for organizing this type of event, because it's very interesting for all of us to see different presentations, to see different technologies. And today I want to, okay, we need to ask everybody to turn off their mics, except of, okay, because it will be extra sound. Okay, so today I want to present you our results using our technologies on the effect of remote conscious influence. So it's just specific research, and we are doing this research, and we are based on so well-known Kirlian effect. And for this now I want to go and share my screen. Okay, here we are. Now you can see, can you see my screen now?
Yes, yes, yeah.
Okay, very good. So all this story started in 18th century when German physicist George Lichtenberg found light coming from different subjects in electromagnetic fields. So that's why it is known as Lichtenberg effect or Lichtenberg figures. In 19th century, it was many people in the world, including Tesla, Markevich Yotka, London de Moro in Brazil, who've been studying this effect and who found interesting effects. But in reality, it became known in 20th century due to the family Kirlian. Just recently, I was in a little Russian city, Krasnodar. Now it's not little, of course. Now it's 1.5 million of people living there. But in 20th century, in mid-20s, it was quite a little city. And Semyon Kirlian was researcher, electrician, very talented, with very bright mind. And he found by himself light coming from his own fingers, his own hands, in electromagnetic field, in strong electromagnetic field. He became very interested. He created his own generator for this, and he began studying this and publishing different pictures, different inventions. He got more than 30 patents for inventions. And later on, it was American scientists, Thelma Moss and Kendall Johnson, who visited Soviet Union, and they especially visited Kirlians. And due to them, it became known worldwide as Kirlian effect. So Kirlian effect was photography of different subjects in electromagnetic, in strong electromagnetic field, and it became very known, beautiful. But we understand now who would ever be using photography with films, with processing, with all these chemicals. Of course, we are digital now. That's why in 1995, our team was able to transfer from Kirlian photography to computer processing. So in 1995, we created our first instrument, and it was known as GDV camera, Gas Discharge Visualization. But of course, now we don't use this name only in, we use it only in scientific publications. So we prefer electrophotonics or electrophotonic imaging. And the principle of this effect is quite understandable. We apply strong electromagnetic field from special generator to transparent glass, in reality quartz plate, and then we see light around subject. It may be human finger, it may be water, it may be leaf, it may be practically any subject. And then we process this light through this transparent glass to CCD camera, and then we use computer processing. So in reality, this is quantum process. So we excite electrons in the subject, and then these electrons emit photons, light. And of course, we see this picture. It is dynamic picture, and we are using image processing because the main part of this light is ultraviolet. So that's why it does make sense to make it colorful. It would be faint, but that's why we use black and white. But then we process these black and white pictures, and we get some image colored in artificial colors. And we can see this is image, for example, of human finger, light around human finger. We can study water, and you see A, it is just normal water, and B and C, those are water after the pyramid. So it's a lot of interesting data, a lot of interesting research. And it's known now as EPI, electrophotonic imaging. We have many patents in different countries, more than now 300 scientific papers, seems to be 14 books in different languages, and you can find many books on Amazon.com. So, plus, if you look to this website, iumap.club, International Union of Medical and Applied Biography, you can see published papers over there. And you can download many papers on many different topics. And of course, books in different languages. So we had many different devices. It was long development, step by step. And our latest device is known BioWell. It is very compact. It operates on USB connection, no batteries, no other connections. And I will tell more about this sensor. So now we have more than 3,000 instruments in the world, in different continents, practically all continents. We have our main centers in the United States, in Europe, Estonia, Spain, St. Petersburg, Russia, and Hong Kong. So it is community of people who are involved in this activity, and it's a lot of them, they're our good friends. And the main areas of applications, these are first of all medicine. In medicine, we don't position this instrument as medical instrument, but as an instrument for analyzing human energy and human well-being, health and well-being. Consciousness study, but a little bit more. Sport. For 10 years, I used to be deputy director on the research of the National Institute of Sport. Now I work in this institute as researcher. And our instruments are accepted by the Ministry of Sport of Russia as one of the key instruments for analysis of Olympic and Paralympic teams of Russia. Then water and material testing, psychology, and energy of space. So you see so many different applications. And those are all different measurements, analysis, but it's not only analysis. We are measuring energy field, and we present it as like this picture, like picture of energy around the body. Then we transform this frequency, because it's frequency, into music, and we apply this music to a special instrument. The name of this instrument is BioCor. This instrument generates music and frequency in gigahertz range. We apply this music and frequency to special earphones, and people have tremendous transformation. So it's really device for anti-stress. Of course, we can measure the effect of this, how it works. And we have a lot of positive data, same as we can apply this frequency to water and modify water. So that's why we have a lot of applications, both for treatment and for analysis. Now let's talk about consciousness studies. We have several lines of consciousness studies. First of all, conscious influence to physical sensors, conscious influence to water, influence of people to each other, telepathy, direct vision or mental training, energy of active zones, influence of active zones to people, energy transformation after death. So you see, in 25 years, it was a lot of different research. And of course, I was able to meet many interesting people. I was presenting at more than maybe 40 conferences, international conferences, but it's all started in Russia, in Soviet Union, in 1980s, when I was invited to be deputy director of the laboratory to study telepathy. So idea was to test possibility to establish telepathic communication with submarines and satellites or Mir station. So our idea of telepathic communication was different from American idea. So we didn't send images or words. We've been sending emotions. So two people are sitting in different parts of the world. Both are wired to different equipment. It's typically this electroencephalography, sometimes electrocardiography. It's our Kirlian effect, and they are measured simultaneously. Then at some particular moment of time, one person sent intentions or emotions to another person. And we see response of physiological system. So you see this one person, of course, it's for one person's conscious process, for another person's subconscious process. And we did many experiments in Soviet time. We were able to establish quite stable line of telepathic communication. And then we have repeated these instruments in 2000s in Nepal, in the mountains, in Venezuela, and always it was possible to define so-named virtual brain. So at the moment of establishing contact, two people correlated their brain activity. And it was absolutely clear. So it was found that that's why it was known as virtual brain. And it was interesting that same process was found for people being in love, who are sending love to each other. It was practically the same process. And on GDB, we were able to see this. You see this peak. This is a moment of sending intentions. And you see it's absolutely a peak. It was very interesting experiment. And we came to idea that it's all come in the process of altered state of consciousness. So we published several papers on this topic, and we established this map of altered state of consciousness. And altered state of consciousness is not only healers or telepaths. Those are many life situations when people transform to altered state of consciousness. For example, in deep meditation, it's absolutely clear. When women give breastfeeding, in the process of giving birth to children, and after some surgical operations, so it's quite well established station, and of course it's very important to study this station. Then in Soviet time, I was able to meet very talented top-level healers in Soviet time, and we did experiments with many of them. It's published somewhere, and it was possible to see, for example, effects of mental influence of Russian healer Chumak, very famous healer, to water. So 1, 2, those are initial state of water. 3, 4, this is his influence, and after his influence. And our model is based on idea of triple manifestation of a human being. So this is first of all our physical body, our vehicle, our mind, and our soul. So our consciousness is a combination of mind and soul from our point of view. And I was able to meet many super talented people in the world, in different countries, in different nationalities. And again, we did many interesting experiments with them. For example, Dr. Joe Dispenza from the United States, Christos Drusinakis, who was originally from Germany, from Greece, now he lives in Germany, Dr. Victor Filippi, all of them, they have big groups of followers. And Dispenza and Filippi, they had thousands and thousands of followers. And you know that all their meetings, all their conferences attract thousands of people. So I was able to measure big group of people before and after their presentations. And it was absolutely clear that level of stress for most of people dropped down and level of energy increased. So it is absolutely clear positive effect. More clearly, it is seen on chakra condition. You know, the chakras, those are model of Ayurvedic medicine. And on chakras, you can see this before, after, it's very strong transformation. We were able to see very interesting physical effect, like distance emission. It's very interesting how to describe it. And of course, you see this dynamic effect. So it's distant emission that exists in time, in dynamic. I have several papers published on these topics, so it's possible to find it on our website, eumab.club. And of course, a lot of experiments we did with water, because water, it is very important media. It is, it has its own life, its own memory. And now we have more and more research done on these unusual properties of water. So we have several sensors that we're using to study water. And we had many experiments with different people. And we are measuring dynamic signal. So this is, you see line, this is dynamics of water signal in time. Of course, water should be stabilized. So it should be, we should have specific waters, or we should stabilize this water. Not every water can be utilized in this type of experiments. And then if water is stabilized, then we can see this stable signal for a long time. And then we ask someone to send intentions to this water from somewhere. And distance doesn't matter. It may be 10 meters, 10 kilometers, 1,000, 10,000, doesn't matter. And we see effect. We understand that this is statistically significant effect. It is no doubts in this effect. And this effect may be this way, this may be that way, maybe this way. So it may be different type of effects, but the most important, it is clear dynamical difference. In one experiment, we had 5 bottles of water standing in our laboratory in the morning. And in every bottle, it was a colored label. And then one person from Japan was trying to send intentions to this water, to this specific bottle with specific color. And we can see, so this, you see 1, 2, 3, 4 signals, they are quite stable. And this signal comes increasing. So it's absolutely clear that this particular water was different from other waters. And from 12 experiments, 9 seems to me was successful, but not always it was same color that was thought by the healer and that we received. A lot of experiments we did with Lynn McTaggart. You know, she's very famous in the world. She's a brilliant presenter. She's an outstanding lady. very, very, very specific lady, very special lady, and I love her very much. So she's great soul, really great soul, and very good, interesting researcher. And she was able to organize intention experiment. So idea was as follows. Through her website, she was asking people in the world to send their intentions at the particular moment of time to the specific laboratory. And it was our laboratory, it was the Radin laboratory, it was some other laboratories. And at this particular time, we were able to detect effect. So of course, we've been measuring background level for an hour or several hours. And then we were able to see this effect. And it's clear that in all cases, it was absolutely clear effect. So, so all this was done with this instrument. We name it Sputnik because it looks like Russian Sputnik, one of the first Russian Sputniks. You can find a lot of information about this Sputnik on this website. So you see here, it's points of measurements, and you can download and read papers describing every experiment. So it's really very interesting, a lot of interesting experiments. And the idea of this device is as follows. We have so named Tesla coil. So in reality, it's coil with two resonance contours. And on one contour, we apply very short electrical impulses, about 10 microseconds. And on second contour, we generate voltage. This voltage is applied to this Sputnik sensor, and it emits in space standing electromagnetic waves. So in reality, we are measuring propagation of standing electromagnetic waves in space. And of course, this propagation depends on the conditions of space, and in particular on impedance of space or capacitance of space. And now let's imagine that we have someone in this area. So we all are conductive subjects. We have some resistance in our body, so we are conducting electricity. And let's imagine that this particular person has some emotions. Emotions generate response of sympathetic parasympathetic nervous system. So it means that person change capillary circulation, and it change conductivity. So we change conductance of this subject, and then it changes the signal. So this is a principle of measuring intentions, emotions. And of course, maybe many people, then maybe stronger. But of course, this describes some simple effects. But of course, it gives us no idea about remote effects. So it's absolutely no simple physical explanations of these remote effects, only from quantum physics. So we had many experiments with this sensor. In particular, it was Dr. Eric Pearl, very famous healer, American healer, who has, again, many followers. He is traveling worldwide. And we've been measuring a lot of his sessions. In every session, we were able to see transformation of people energy. So that's why he has tremendous effects. And even more than that, we were able to see effect of Sputnik. So you see this in the beginning. So it's measurement for 8 hours during the whole session. So in the beginning, people are coming to the audience, there are some activity, then there are lunch break in here, then of course it's decrease after lunch, everybody is sleepy. And then Eric came into the audience and he started his presentation. He's a brilliant presenter. He has tremendous energy. He is very charismatic person, and you see effect. See effect. So we did many measurements of this kind. We published this data in this book, Science Confirms the Connected Healing, and you can find this book at amazon.com. And in this book, present experiments of Dr. Gary Schwartz from Arizona University and Professor William Tiller, who passed away, unfortunately. He was from Stanford. And altogether, we came to conclusion that in the process of this healing activity, we see transformation of space, transformation of area in space. And of course, we did many experiments of this kind. So we see another type of experiment. Typically, during meditation sessions, we see decrease of parameters, decrease of energy. It's very, very typical for meditation. But this was done during 4 days workshop of Joe Dispenza. And you see, at every session, energy drops down. It's absolutely clear. But day by day, it increases. So it's like cumulative effect. Of course, we don't know how long it would last, this effect. We didn't have chance to study this in long range, but we see that in the effect of mental influence, we see some accumulation of energy in the room. When we see sessions with intentions, it was special intention. You see, it's not decrease, but increase of energy. So it's different type of effect. The topic that I was using this Sputnik, it is for measuring music. Because my idea that when we have live presenters, top level presenters, in particular opera singers, they transform the energy in space. That's why being in the theater, you have tremendous effect. Listening this same by record, you have beautiful music, but not so strong effect. And I was able to measure different presenters, but in particular, this is Dmitry Khvorostovsky and René Fleming, who used to be most famous in the world. And they had series of concerts in St. Petersburg. And there I was able to measure their effect. It was absolutely clear response of sensor at every moment of their performance. Absolutely clear. Another example that I want to give you, there's some influence to space by some sacred subjects. And you see the beautiful church in Moscow. And in this church, they make service, of course. And in this church, we have icon. Very old, ancient icon from 12th century. This icon was presented to Russian dukes from Byzantium in 12th century after Baptization of Russia. And this icon was kept as holy icon. It survived all turmoils. In Soviet time, it was transferred to Russian museum, but then it was given back to church. So I was allowed to position this sensor, Sputnik sensor, nearby this icon, because system runs in totally automatic mode, in offline mode regime, so it's without any noise. And so I was able to take measurements for 2-something hours during all the service. And you see, all the moments of the service is reflected on the signal, all the moments. It was absolutely clear. Then I've done measurements in the same church, but outside, in 2 places, in 2 different places, outside of the icon. And you see, energy was totally different and much less than nearby. And of course, the service had strong effect on people as well. Absolutely. Then I was allowed to take measurements at different cemeteries. We have cemetery in Moscow, where there are top level of Russia buried, and I was measuring nearby the grave of Anton Chekhov, very famous Russian writer. And then second cemetery was the cemetery where it was unknown people who found on the street somewhere and have no address, no origin, no passport, nothing. And you see, 1, 2, those are measurements at different temples in Moscow. 3 and 4, those are measurements on cemeteries. So it's absolutely clear that dynamic of signal, or standard variation of signal on the cemeteries was much, much higher compared with churches. And we have special parameter, so an environmental activity parameter. In reality, it's measurement of standard deviation of a signal. And you see in temples, it was quite low, but on cemeteries, it was very high. And from our experience, we know that these very high parameters, this very high variation of a signal is not beneficial for health. So it was found in many experiments, in many cases. Another experiment that I want to mention, those are experiments in St. Petersburg, in our laboratory, where it was 11 people from different parts of Russia who at the particular time was sending their intentions to our laboratory from 11 to 11:30 a.m. So I turned on water sensor and Sputnik sensor around 9 o'clock in the morning. Then I closed the room and left. So it was nobody in the laboratory for the whole day. And the system was running in totally automatic mode. And you see, so you see this first measurement is background measurement. And this green bar, those are 2 different measurements in different sensors at the moment of intention. Every bar, it's average of half an hour. And you see it's absolutely clear effect, statistically significant before and after, no doubts. So it's another parameter, same, no doubts effect. So a lot of data are presented in my book, The Energy of Consciousness, and you can find it on Amazon.com. Because what I've told now, it's only little part of experiment. And of course, we have a lot of other data, a lot of other experiments, just to make my presentation more vivid. I would like to show you a little movie.
Can humans find a time when they will allow space for what they don't believe is possible? For 300 years, science has asked the question, is there a field of energy that connects everything?
Where do our thoughts go when we die?
Someday, there will be inventions in physics, and when they do, you'll see that consciousness is energy. What human beings think collectively can be measured.
You have hundreds of thousands of molecules. They can exchange vibrations all over around the field. This is chemistry, but it's a kind of dancing chemistry.
In consciousness, we can communicate and perceive anywhere throughout the entire universe.
Energy increased dramatically.
Distance does not matter.
The field is the origin of everything.
What is a thought? Thought is a particle of light. We can measure it.
Our thoughts are broadcast to the field.
What happens in one part of the field influences other parts of the field in the same instant. And this is deep, profound.
Okay, so you see, this is a trailer of this movie, The One Field, and this movie was done in Israel, but now you can find it on internet because, as you've seen, it's a lot of people, top-level researchers, scientists who participate in this movie. And we did many experiments by measuring intentions, by measuring conscious influence, and it was all part of this movie. And of course, I've been discussing this as well. So I really recommend you to watch this movie. It's really very interesting. So, and the last but not the least, now we have new device that we are preparing for production line. Of course, we all was, as everybody, we were a bit delayed by this stupid situation, but we hope that by the end of the year, this device will be on the market. Our idea, this device is pairs with mobile phone. As you see, it is little size, so we can put it in purse, in women, in ladies' purse. And this would allow you to take measurements in anywhere. Would you go to gym before, after? Would you go to restaurant before, after? Would you drink a glass of wine? Would you need to select some supplements? We have special technology how to select supplements individually for you. So this is my idea to move it forward to big groups of people. Because, and plus, of course, it will be Sputnik that can be used for this device as well. Because I believe that if many people participate in this type of experiments, then they will understand more and more the role of consciousness in the world, and then they will include themselves in this process. And this is very, very important. And that's why every year we have annual, yes, now it was 24th or 25th, and it's, we have it in St. Petersburg, first weekend of July, and you can find this on our websites. You see siscongress.com or bio-world.com. This year, this Congress was online, and we have more than 1,000 people who was watching this Congress for today's presentation. But we hope that next year still we will be able to have our guests in our city, because July is the best time in St. Petersburg, really the best. It is very warm, it's very nice. We have white nights when you can read at night without any lights because we are farmers. And that's why if you would be interested to see something else and to see some new ideas from researchers from all over the world, you are very welcome to watch to look at our website and to present at this congress. So this is my presentation, and now I hope that we can share some ideas and discuss some topics and questions. Okay, thank you.
Okay, Konstantin, many thanks. It was a great lecture. First question from me. I remember a discussion yesterday. There's more than 1 hour discussion, and you said yesterday in your experiment you set up 5 bottles labeled by different colors and asked people for a remote influence only for specific color. Yeah, but frequently people mix. They do not meet exactly that color. They meet some color from this number. I'm asking because in our experiments with collective consciousness, we also have a number of devices, and in some cases, all devices react, or only some combination of devices react. And you said yesterday that you basically you understand why it's happening. Can you please give some, let's say, examples and a little bit elaborate on this point?
Okay. So from my point of view, we have, as I've told, when people send their influence to some place or meditate in some place, they change the structure of space in this place. And if you have your devices standing in this particular room for some time, then they have entanglement effect. So I believe that being of one and the same devices, being in one and the same room for some time, they should be integral. That is why in your experiments, depending on situation and conditions, it may be all the devices that responded or several of them. In our situation, we had new bottles every morning. Plus, we had all this experiment for maybe, I don't remember, maybe 1 hour, not more. It was a specific hour, only 1 hour, when this person was sending information. And one was on. Okay, thank you. That's why it was a totally different situation. That is why in our case, person was able to send intention to one bottle. In your case, of course, all the devices, they respond. That's my vision of this.
Just back to this experiment with different bottles of water. If this person influenced one bottle, let's say green bottle, but responded blue bottle, yeah? How, let's say, frequently do you meet this situation? Let's say, how many cases was a correct intention, and how many, let's say, it was some mixed influence?
It was about 50-50. That's why, yes. I think that it was a random effect. I don't think that it was possible for a person to detect specific color. Because still it was just a label, nothing else.
Okay, please ask for questions. Yes. I think there are questions in chat.
Why does energy level decrease when meditation? To my mind, meditation make I would say balancing of space. It decreases the entropy of space, and you know that the lower the entropy, the lower the energy. The lowest entropy we have at absolute zero when there are no movement of no heat movement of molecules. So that's why, for me, from physical point of view, it's quite logical. So people meditate, mostly in group meditation. They balance space, they decrease entropy of space, and then they decrease energy, which we are measuring. So it's quite logical.
I have a question. Hello, Konstantin. This is Anton Fedorenko. Thank you very much for your talk. It was very interesting. I learned a lot. I didn't actually knew that you're doing a lot of research with consciousness. I knew about your medical part, but I didn't know about consciousness research. It was very interesting. And it was very interesting to learn that some people also were doing research through the internet, combining consciousness from different people. As you may know, we're also doing this project research on the aqua side. We're trying to gather people to at the same time to concentrate, and we're kind of experimenting with different options, how people actually can send intention and resonate. Yeah, so I wanted to ask you a question. When you do collective experiments with different people, what intention did you ask them to send? How do you organize usually this type of experiments with a group of people?
Okay, thank you, Anton. Your approach was very interesting. So my congratulations, and I hope you will be successful. You see, we found in many experiments from Soviet time to have effect of intention, people need to attenuate themselves with this particular subject. So they need to accept this particular subject as a part of their own system. And doesn't matter, would it be water, would it be some sensor. So they need, that's why we always send a picture of this, how it looks like. And people try to, some of them, they tell us that they were trying to come inside this subject, inside this. Some of them tell, oh, I feel that this subject is a part of me. And then they change their own state, and then help to change this subject. Another type of experiments, when we were asking people to send love, to send love and positive intention to this sensor. To feel that you, by sending love, you can help this sensor. And you know, now there are many events of this kind when people sit together in different countries and when they send love to some area, for example, to Israel, to Palestine, to Jerusalem, to some areas where there are some events, catastrophic events, and we have some statistics that it really helps that work. So that is why, but of course you need to explain to people what they should do. If they just sit and meditate deep inside, then maybe it will be much more difficult to detect this effect on some sense.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah. Thank you very much.
Yes, please.
Hello. I have a question, Artur Bartosik. My question is basically two parts or two questions. The first is whether the Sputnik detector can detect changes in space depending on the rhythmic changes in the environment, like the moon phases or local sidereal time. And the second part of my, the other question that I have is whether the cemeteries influence the aura in a positive or a negative way.
Okay, thank you for your questions. First, both questions, yes. The answer is yes. Of course, we had many experiments when we've been studying environment, many experiments. And you can find this in my book, The Energy of Space. And so we can detect moon phase absolutely, of course, mostly the change of moon phase. We can detect solar eclipses, and you can find our measurements based on this. You can find paper of Beverly Rubik, Dr. Beverly Rubik on this. So it is really responding to environment. That is why before we do any experiment with intention, we need to define that environment is stable. And of course, we need to find the place where it is stable. Sometimes I walk in my laboratory, it is very chaotic. Sometimes it's stable. So of course, we understand it all depends on geomagnetic activity. So that's the first question. And you can find a lot of measurement that was done in different parts of the world. I've been traveling a lot before much. I hope it will be possible again. And I was measuring a lot of different subjects. By the way, the latest measurement was done in July when I was traveling to Tomsk. This is our city in Siberia, where people built pyramids. It was a very interesting project run by one Siberian businessman who was very interested in this idea, and he invited Valery Uvarov, famous researcher in pyramids, to help them and build pyramids. And they built big pyramid, 17 meters high, and for several days I've been measuring inside and outside pyramid, this pyramid. And company Gaia at Gaia.com, they are preparing a movie about this experiment, because of course we have a team of TV team and they are preparing this. And it was absolutely clear effect of pyramid, 100% clear. Both on environment, on people, and inside the pyramid energy was very stable. Even I've been measuring for 48 something hours constantly, and outside it was thunderstorm, it was different weather, but inside the pyramid it was very, very stable energy. So that's the first question. Second question about symmetry. All our measurements at symmetry demonstrated decrease of energy. For all people being the symmetry, we have decrease. The longer, the higher. Of course, it depends on people. Some people respond strong, more strong, some less, but still it's corrected for all people. So I don't think that walking on cemeteries at night is very helpful.
Well, thank you very much for your answers. Thank you.
Yes. Okay.
Hi, good afternoon, Konstantin. I'm Lindsay from Water Peace Project. And I'm working with Anton doing the water experiment, and your talk was really fascinating. Thank you for all that information. And I met you at the water conference. I used to work with Dr. Emoto, and so I founded Water Peace Project in his memory. So my question is, I asked Anton, because we are doing a series of experiments, and what my question is how do we have the hygiene of the experiment really clean? And we can see in all these different research that there is clearly an effect. But what Anton was sharing with me was, you know, sometimes it goes up or down, and we want to define that effect. And so we were thinking about being really specific with the intention in increasing the conductivity or asking to heat up the water so that we could actually quantify that actual effect. Do you have a suggestion or comment on that?
Yes, you're absolutely right. Of course, we may have different effects on the water because water is very complicated subject by itself. It's alive. And water responds to environment by itself. In different days, you have absolutely different parameters of water, of one and the same water. All attempts to use stabilized water, distilled water, double distilled water, it didn't work. And we just had a discussion with Professor Voyekov, who is one of the top researchers in water, and he can confirm to you because they had the water in a totally closed container, in permalloy container, and this water responded to environmental situation, even inside this container. So that's why I accept and I presume that you will have a lot of difficulties operating with water. Still, of course, attempt to send specific parameters to water. It may be good, but what does mean conductivity or heat? Water.
Does it increase the temperature?
No, wait. What does mean temperature? You see, it's interesting. Right. It's all our labels.
Yes.
That we just put there. And water doesn't understand what do you mean heat, what do you mean temperature. Of course, you can, if you want, you can increase the movement of molecules in water. This is more understandable for me as a physicist. And then, of course, if we increase the movement of molecules, we can change the parameters of water. But to my mind, it's a little bit too complicated for people. Temperature, heat, conductivity, movement molecules. That's why I always prefer, we typically work with people who are not physicists, who are not chemists. And for them, they need to have something understandable.
Right.
When we talk about love, it is understandable for everybody.
I agree. Thank you for answering that. I appreciate that.
Yes. So of course, but of course, the more experiments you do, the more experience you have, and then of course you will share with us your brilliant results.
Exactly. So we're going to do that every month on the 11th at 11 a.m. Eastern time, and we're partnered with Aquasci and Anton, and he's going to keep all the data. So we'll definitely share that with you. So thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you.
By the way, Konstantin, just an idea. Anton is here and Lindsay is here. Why not to, let's say, to make a common experiment with two laboratories, so there's three laboratories. Anton, we use water sensors, and you use water sensor Kirlian device for registering one of these events, what Lindsay said.
You see, my experience that only when I have direct influence, direct intention, then we can detect something. Of course, some sensors can detect to earthquake in Philippines or to volcano in Iceland, but then it has too much noise. Then it's very difficult to detect noise. Same, you know, that it was a lot of several experiments when it was able to detect September 11 event, but it was an event that had tremendous response from billions of people, not millions, billions of people. That is absolutely clear worldwide. But if you have, for example, 10, 100,000 people sending intentions, why this should intention come not to Germany but to Russia or to somewhere else?
We use picture for targeting. We use picture of the sensor, and for instance, Anton put a picture of one water sample, and we put, in this case, for next experiment, 2 water samples, one in our laboratory and one in your laboratory, for instance, and we can perform a kind of joint detection of this event.
Yeah, of course, if people, some of them will send around one laboratory, not on another laboratory, then the third laboratory, then maybe we may have effect, maybe. But maybe at the first stage, it makes sense to concentrate on one laboratory and to have repeatable data, to collect some metadata. Because we understand for all those type of experiments, we need metadata. You don't need to have 100% repeatability. It would be nonsense. But if you can make, for example, 100 experiments of this kind, and 100 experiments is quite a long time, you see, then you can make meta-analysis. And in this, as was done for experiments, random generator experiments, remember, then it would be really significant. In our plan, when we have this, our mobile device, when people use this device at home, then they will be able to make their own experiments at their homes. If we can detect this, we detect this all on our website, and we can detect coordinates of the particular space because it's a mobile phone, it's understandable. And then I plan that we have this Volt conscious network, and then we'll try to make it. But let's discuss different topics. It's different options. So I would be happy to participate in this type of experiments. And for us, it's very easy. It's turn on and just let go. It's also totally automatic.
Konstantin, I have a question. Thank you very much for this very impressive demonstration. And you are doing your measurements since a little time. It's not only since yesterday, it's a couple of years, I would say. And my question is, could you see a difference in the field as to the rising pollution with electromagnetic artificial fields, for example, the 5G? Does this have any influence, or could you see something?
Okay, so you can find on our website, iomap.club, one of my papers where I describe results of measuring influence of mobile phone to people. Mm-hmm. So we had maybe 50 or 40, 60 people, I don't remember, quite a lot of people who've been measured before using mobile phone and after using mobile phone. And in the process of using mobile phone, they were keeping this somewhere. And we've been measuring signal from only 2 fingers that allows us to measure the level of stress and level of energy. And for half of the people, it was no effect at all. Mm-hmm. Some people, they even increase the energy by talking on the phone. Yes, yes, because still it's energy. For half of the people, it was decreased. And this way, and then we repeated this with some other. Then we've been using some protective devices, protective measures, and then practically nobody had response. So it is clear for me that would it be negative effect on all people from mobile phones, half of population of the world would have died. Yes, but it didn't happen. Even coronavirus didn't kill all the people. So it's absolutely clear. So it's clear that those are people who have electromagnetic allergy, and there are many people of this kind, and it's maybe very strong. Some people respond to mobile phone, some people respond to Bluetooth. I know those people. And this is allergy. We name it as electromagnetic allergy. We don't know the effect of 5G. We don't know yet. It's only a new stage of fields. What is good with 5G, that it has a very, I would say, local effect. So if you have, for example, I have a router with 5G, and it works here, where I'm sitting in my study room, because I need it very fast. But if I go to the adjacent room, then there are no signal at all. In my bedroom, of course, no signal. That's obligatory. So the most important, you need to sleep in normal condition. The less influences, the better. And of course, we recommend for sensitive people to use grounding for their bedrooms. That's obligatory. And it's, you know, that you can find it, it's easy on the internet. To use maybe some grounding in there. Of course, to have only natural clothes, only, no synthetics. To get rid of synthetics in your home, because all synthetics evaporate, and it's dangerous by itself. And of course, it decreases your immune system. So we need to understand, we need to live in most natural environment as possible. Of course, I live in big city, and we have everything around. We have very bad air. We have a lot of traffic. We have a lot of electromagnetic pollutions. That's why every week I try to go to the countryside to get some fresh air, and or to go to the parks. We have many parks in St. Petersburg, and to get some fresh air. So that's why it's obligatory.
Thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome. Please give me some understanding on how can register or organs energy after removed from body. I don't understand this question, because we are measuring organ energy from fingers. So we are, when we evaluate well-being or health state, we are measuring from fingers. And at this particular moment, we can define health issues, wellness, and energy of the body. If we're measuring outside of the body, of course, we can have no idea about organs energy, not at all. Okay, please join our active collective consciousness experiment every month on 11/11. Okay, so we've been discussing this, so that's why I would be happy. So we need to discuss maybe in more details how to make it.
Yeah, yes, please explain. And I have also more or less similar questions. Yes, please.
Okay, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, hello, Professor. I'm very happy to see you again. We have been together in the Pula conference. You remember we made some photos. I'm using your system and I'm very happy using it. So thank you very much for your work, for all of us, for humanity. And the question what I arised was that I had some patients who had some part of their body removed, some part of the belly, some gynecological parts removed, or having seen thyroid, also patients after thyroid operation. And with the GTV camera, there was registered an energy field, was not a zero field there. Nevertheless, the patient's organ itself has been biologically removed. And I have some explanation, but I would be very helpful for me to hear your explanation about this situation, because my patients, some of them were just shocked about that fact, that they knew that they had their belly, for instance, their colon, part of the colon removed, and the energy still remained there. And the more interesting, they had some pain of that part. Nevertheless, they didn't have the organ there. So it was even more mysterious.
No. It's all understandable. Absolutely understandable. Our body, our system, has very powerful power to substitute the function of the removed part by the other parts. And it related to all parts of the body. Of course, when thyroid is removed, then it decreases immune function tremendously. But still, people can function. But they need obligatory. They need some pharmaceutical support. You know, it's impossible to live without.
Yes.
Same as they have hypothyroid or hyperthyroid. Again, same story. When, for example, they have one lung removed, other lung take part of all the system. That's why those people can operate normally in life. And that's why when you are measuring them, you see absolutely normal picture, because it's all in homeostasis. But if you apply some load, some physical exercise or breathing exercise, then you will see response of the body. And then you will see response of this removed organ. Of course, for digestive tract, it's much more complicated, but still it's possible to give people some food, some piece of bread, for example, they swallow, and then you can see response of this organ. Just a very clear example, just a couple of days ago, I've been measuring one lady, and I've told her, oh, I see that you have very serious situation with your thyroid. She told, yes, I had thyroid cancer 2 years ago. Thyroid was removed, of course. She had chemotherapy, light therapy, but now she's okay. But still, I've seen very strong signal, because maybe after several years it will be over. So that is why only dynamic loading. And in my book, The Energy of Chaos, you can find a description of simple dynamic loads. You can define it. And I always recommend you, if you make some measurements, to apply some dynamic loading, because this allows us to see function of the body in loads. You know that, for example, if you want to study cardiovascular system, you need to use monitoring, Holter monitoring, not just cardiogram at the moment, but monitoring, Holter monitoring. Same here. If you want to really understand what's going on with the body, you need to use some dynamics and to see response in dynamics. Then it will be much more clear. And about limb pain, it is very, very known effect in medicine. It's a lot of papers published on this topic. It is absolutely clear that our brain keeps some memory of this limb. And as this limb, particular part of the body, doesn't give signal to the brain sends signal to some nervous system to give a signal, because pain, it's a signal for us. It's a signal that something is going wrong and you need to do something. Without pain, you would never find that your teeth is broken, yes, or wrong. So that's why it's a response of the brain to the absence of signal. And it's very difficult to get rid of this situation, very difficult. You can find, again, you can find papers, scientific papers. It's mostly done under hypnosis. Then it helps. Or in some recurrent healing sessions. Again, it may help. But of course, it's very complicated too. Yeah.
Konstantin, short, let's say, question related to exactly this point of remote, let's say, remote energy. It's about the phantom effect, but properly, you know, if people focus a consciousness in some object or on a piece of space or in some, let's say, in some object, yeah, then some energy still remain in this object or in this place, and it's measurable. It disappears after a while. Did you perform this measurement of phantom effect? What is the outcome of your measurements?
Yes.
You see, as I've told, we've done several measurements before icons, ancient old icons, or before subjects of art, pictures, real pictures. And we were able to see really significant difference from nearby subject and outside. In my mind, it's just what you've told about. So if it is real piece of art, then it keeps some energy of the creator, because of course creator puts his own or her energy, and it keeps energy of visitors, spectators. That is why I've shown you example of this icon that we've done. It was actually clear, and we did several experiments of this kind. Not so many, but several experiments, and always it was some effect. So it was even discussion with our artists that it's possible to detect real it is subject of art or it's fake. You know, now it's the whole market of fake arts, the whole market. But I don't know, of course, it's in criminology, it's a different story.
More questions, please. Okay, yes, David, please.
Hello, hi, good evening, everybody. And thank you so much, Professor Korotkov, for the presentation. It was very enlightening, and it was beautiful to hear about all the possible applications. I'm currently studying a Master of Transpersonal Psychology and Consciousness Studies. So I was specifically very interested about all of the research that you've done in consciousness studies. I know, like, I mean, the future is going that direction. After the double slit experiments and everything that has been done also like in California, it seems like finally the scientific movement is starting to accept consciousness studies, and having a device like yours to actually be able to define these things in a way that is mathematically sound and also statistically sound, I think is amazing. So I really appreciate that you've been doing this for so long. And for me, it's exciting to discover it now. So first, like, it was just one to be a thank to you. I have like one question. Actually two questions. One is related to the medical part. I found extremely fascinating what you said about like creating like music, like tones that will be specific, like for whichever is the energy consciousness of that person in that moment. So I wonder, like, do you think that that would be some sort of like a tool that can be used instead of like using medication, instead of like using different radiation machines that we have now currently in medicine? It can be used really just like you have the patient listen to like a piece of music that will be on purpose made to match what is the imbalance in the vibration, in the frequency of the person. Is that like where you're trying to get towards?
You see, first of all, we are doing this. I mentioned this BioCor device, specifically designed for this.
Okay.
It is music that is modified in accordance with measurement of a person. So we applied this music to earphones, plus high frequency that is very positive as well for health, and we have tremendous effects. So it's, now we have maybe thousands of these devices worldwide. We produce next generation of these devices with more complicated features, and we have wonderful effects. So music therapy, it is very important part of complementary alternative medicine now. Very important. To me, without music, we don't have life. So music, it's a part of life.
Right.
And of course, it may be different kind of music depending on your own frequency.
Yes.
For some people, it's maybe classical music. For some people, it may be rocks. For some people, it may be punk. It doesn't matter. But it is frequency. Yes. And the frequency resonates with us, with our brain. And of course, it makes us enlightened. It's absolutely clear.
That is great. And I'm thinking possibly like in the future, like a way of combining, because I mean, music, as you say, is frequency. So it carries the information with it. And it's kind of like the same thing that you would have like in light therapy. So maybe in the future, there's a way of combining like different carriers of frequency, be that the light, be that the sound, and just create a symphony, let's say, for the person that is tailor-made for whichever is the imbalance they have. I think it's super fascinating.
We are doing approach. Now it's okay. So we are producing this BioCor, and now we are preparing for production a special light bracelet.
Okay.
It is using color light, infrared lights, and it will be synchronized, of course, with this music. So it's just what you're told. Okay. And people can use this for specific acupuncture points, for arms, for legs, for knees, and then I hope there will be a combined effect, what you talked about.
That sounds amazing. All right, so then like my second question, it might be like something a bit off topic. So you tell me if it's something that like it doesn't pertain to this discussion. So I'm very fascinated by a system that is called human design. And in that system, there's a lot of, you know, information about the auras of people. And especially I'm very interested about the fact that according to this knowledge, the shape of the auras of different people is different. And if it's actually possible with any of your device to tap into those differences, or maybe it's not that easy. And like,
it's primitive. For us, it's primitive.
Okay.
It's the level of our device.
Right, okay.
So if you look to bio-well.com, you will see examples. And on this iomap.club, you can see many papers on this. So
right.
of course, we all have different energy fields.
Yes.
And this shape of this energy field that we are measuring, that people are feeling, this is indication of wellness, health, and to some extent of consciousness as well. So that's really very important parameter, very important. So you can have a look at this. Just you know, you're a young researcher, so you can search for papers.
Yes.
Then you find hundreds of papers on this topic.
Okay, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Yeah, very welcome.
Just to add to that, Konstantin, Professor, the biofeedback of the BioCor, I learned about another study. It was a different device, but I'm wondering how yours works like that. They used it in a hospital with neonatal babies. Obviously, those are stressed out babies and stressed out moms. And that device that they used did feedback, creating music and color also. And typically they experience these babies, 50% in the neonatal were unable to nurse properly or latch on. And once they used that device, they had 100% success, which I found really fascinating. And so really creating that resonance between the two, or dissolving that tension or stress from the whatever, you know, trauma or what they were going through. But it was interesting. And do you have stuff like that happening with your device? Like what kind of feedback? Are they any studies with it that you're doing? Or I'm just curious. That's fascinating.
Yes, you are absolutely right. Using this type of devices in medical conditions in hospitals would be fantastic. And mostly for mothers, young mothers, because you know that after birth depression, it is normal physiological effect that experience most of ladies who give birth to babies. But of course, if it's possible to help them, and I believe that biofeedback music therapy, light therapy would be fantastic. We have this type of, I would say, laboratory for many years in one of our universities, using our device, using light therapy, music therapy. And we worked with Ministry of Railway of Russia. And all the drivers of railway cars, all top-level managers, they had once a year to pass through this laboratory, through this center. It was a rejuvenation center. And the effect was fantastic. We had many results of this kind. So I believe that now more and more, I would say, managers in different hospitals, in different health centers would accept this idea and make this as their own tool. Because We have these technologies, different technologies. We understand how to do this. And of course, we have no doubts of the effects. It's all biofeedback effect. It's very strong.
And so it works because it increases the heart rate variability, as I understand, basically, and the coherence. Is that right? Like, because it's all like frequent. I mean, what am I saying? Like, it's rhythmic, so the body just synchronizes, through that effect.
We work in all our experiments. We typically use BioWell and HRV. And in HRV, of course, you don't need to increase HRV. You need to balance.
Balance.
Idea of any type of this experiment to balance it and to make dominance of parasympathetic activity and decrease the sympathetic activity.
Right. Thank you for answering that.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Konstantin, here is a question in chat about mobile GDV device.
Okay, let me see.
Yeah, that was me, Serge. Thank you. Sorry.
Ah, okay. So sorry.
Sorry. And I'm going to look into that. Your device is fascinating, and I really think we need more applications like that. So, to get a sense of better health and wellness. So thank you.
If there's chat to me message, please ask. I mean, it's an open discussion. Please ask.
Yeah, so I can ask?
Yes, sure.
Okay. I really feel that this mobile GDV camera could be a breakthrough, what Professor has showed on his slides. I mean, is that available already, or only the mobile program is available yet? Because that one I have downloaded, and it's very nice synchronizing with my existing system, so I can look up my patients' that data wherever I am. But of course, I cannot measure new ones only with the camera. So the question is that mobile camera, which was shown on the slide of the professor in this presentation, is already available, or can he elaborate that small camera?
Unfortunately, we were delayed by these several months. So I was planning to have it by September, but all these 4 months that we were blocked totally worldwide, we need to add this. So we plan to do it by the end of the year. And of course, my vision to have it by Christmas. So for people as Christmas present. So let's hope it will be ready by that time. And now we are still preparing this. So in principle, we have everything ready, everything. In our laboratory, we have samples, they operate. Up till now, it was no faults. It operates on Amazon, it operates on iPhone, on different models, through Bluetooth. So it's really very, and in principle, it's same speed as with computer.
And it is sending the signals on Bluetooth?
Yes.
Bluetooth, But you can do the only single finger measurement, right?
One by one, yes. Same principle.
Same principle. So you can do both the 10, right?
No, you can
so
one by
10 fingers can be measured.
All 10 fingers, but one by one. Yes. Same principle, same idea of programs. And
I think everybody should know themselves. It really helps checking yourself. How you operate and how in what stage you are, and I feel it very good that people should see themselves, how their thoughts can influence their whole energy system, and it shows precisely.
Yeah. In a very short time, we'll present new upgrade of our programs with a new program. We name it Tracker. This would allow to track your energy, your stress day by day. In one graph, you will see it in 1 month, in 1 week, in 1 year, and you see this as a line. It will be, again, very, very helpful.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. I would like to ask a question, sir.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Of course, I chime in with everybody in appreciation of your work. My question is about measuring non-local effect. I'm working with, as you know, Therify and Plasma Fire from Dan Winter, and I have a one-year research program that I'm working with addictions counseling and trauma-informed care. So I want to, of course, I have in person in clinic, but I'm also working non-locally, long distance. And so would this be able to make those kind of specific measurements or tracking just by virtue of them, say, being able to have that program on their iPhone? Or...
Yes, of course. If people have this device, mobile device, and they can measure themselves before, after, or during in the process, because this idea is false. One more topic. This mobile device for people would be very non-expensive. So everybody can afford it. It's much cheaper than modern Samsung devices, phones. So that's why people, you work in your laboratory, you send your healing intention to someone. Those people, they have their mobile biowell, and they are measuring themselves before, after, or even in the process of your sending your intention. So it will be very clear.
So we can share that information back and forth?
Of course, sure. Because in our system, all information that you have in your account, you can share with anybody. And because every person has his or her own account with account name and password. Password is your private. Nobody knows. But your name, your login, it's your open information. And we always send information to each other. It's very typical. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Great. Any more questions?
Okay, so it was an hour and a half.
Yeah, that's...
yes. Okay, thank you very much for the questions, for participation. It was very, very interesting. Very interesting.
It was a great lecture, Konstantin. Thank you very much again for participating in the seminar. Okay, then we will see what will be the next. We have no plan up to now. Open for new speaker, probably new form of the seminar. Whether it's necessary at all, we don't know. Okay, we will tell now what will happen after this. Okay, then everybody, probably see you next time. Then bye-bye.
Thank you so much again.
Thank you very much.
Have a good evening.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.